If you could go back in time, back to nearly 7 million years ago, you would see a very different world, wild, ancient, and mysterious. It was a normal morning in a remote African land. There were no people, no cities, no houses, no technology, just dense forests, vast savannas, and the roar of wild animals. But did you know? In that seemingly primitive world, a miracle had begun. It was the appearance of the first human ancestor. A tiny creature, taking its first wobbly steps on two legs, marking the beginning of the longest evolutionary journey in human history. Back then, Earth was not like it is now. The sky was clear, the climate was warmer, the tropical forests were shrinking, giving way to dry grasslands and vast open spaces. Animals were everywhere. Giant mastodons marched in herds across the valley. Prehistoric lions stalked the grass, and herds of primates frolicked in the tall trees. Humans did not yet exist, but somewhere deep in the jungle, a strange creature was slowly changing. It did not know that it would become the ancestor of a great species. In a wild area of Central Africa, in what is now Chad, nearly 7 million years ago, a small creature was moving slowly through the undergrowth. It did not walk on all fours like other apes. Instead, it stood up. Not tall, not strong, but it walked on two legs. It was Sahelanthropus tchadensis, a long and strange name, but it carried within it the first milestone of humanity. It did not know that it was special. It was less than a meter tall. Its tiny head was the size of an orange. Its brain was not yet as developed as a human's, but its face was already flatter. Its canines smaller, a sign that it was less aggressive, more gregarious. It did not make tools, could not speak, had no fire, but standing up to observe, to walk on two legs. It was an act that changed the course of evolution. No one witnessed that moment. No one applauded, no trumpets, just a gentle breeze across the steppe, and the sunlight falling on the back of a creature that will forever be seen as the first step of humanity. From the first step of Sahelanthropus, time continued to pass silently. Hundreds of thousands of years, then millions of years. The earth changed, the climate fluctuated, and creatures adapted. Creatures like Sahelanthropus gradually disappeared, but they left traces in the blood of another species. A new, taller, more stable creature began to appear in the forests and grasslands of Africa. That was Australopithecus, a primitive human species, who lived about 4 million years ago. They walked entirely on two legs. They no longer climbed trees like their ancestors, but lived on the ground, looking straight at the world with curious, cautious eyes. They began to use stones to crack nuts, break branches to defend themselves. Although simple, it was the beginning of intelligence. Then time passed again. About 2.4 million years ago, a new species appeared, Homo habilis, man of skill, who knew how to make stone tools. Not only did they survive, they began to create tools to master nature. Then came Homo erectus, man standing upright, who lived nearly 2 million years ago. They were pioneers. They knew how to keep fires, how to hunt in groups, and most importantly, how to migrate out of Africa. They crossed high mountains, long rivers, across Asia, Europe, and left footprints everywhere. Finally, after millions of years of change, about 300,000 years ago, the Homo sapiens species was born, which is us today. A species with sophisticated minds, able to imagine, know how to love, know how to build societies, write words, create the world. You might wonder, what does what happened 6.9 million years ago have to do with me today? We are modern, have technology, have airplanes, have artificial intelligence. Why should we care about a small creature standing in the middle of the jungle? The answer lies in our own blood and brains. For if Sahelanthropus had not stood up, if the first steps had not happened, there would have been no Australopithecus, no Homo habilis, no Homo sapiens, and there would be no you, no me, no human world as it is today. That moment, when a primitive creature first stood on two legs, was the first small spark that lit the torch of all human history. That moment when humans began to move away from the animal kingdom and become thinking creatures. As our ancestors walked upright, they began to have free hands to grasp, to make things, to hug their children, to communicate emotions. As their faces flattened, Their teeth became smaller. They began to smile, to call each other with their first sounds. It was not just biological evolution. It was the rise of consciousness, the beginning of culture, of love, of creativity. So 6.9 million years ago is not a fairy tale or a fossil. It was the opening chapter of the human story. And each of us continues to write a new chapter every day. And then, after all the great strides over millions of years, humans have arrived on this planet. From an unknown creature in the jungle, to a species that can explore the oceans, to go beyond the atmosphere, and to sit here, listening to a story about ourselves. We always dream about the future. Robots, spaceships, artificial intelligence, but sometimes the most magical things lie in looking back to where it all began. Imagine, if it weren't for the rain that day, if the sun hadn't shone through the leaves in the African forest that year, if Sahelanthropus hadn't stood up, then you and I would never have had the chance to tell this story. So, knowing where we come from is the best way to understand who we are. And knowing who we are will help us live more kindly, more deeply, and more responsibly in this world. The story of humanity doesn't begin with war, weapons, or power. It begins with a small creature bravely standing up in silence. Thank you for listening.